Hello, SBG fanatics, to the first part of the Moria Army review series that I'm going to be doing in response to a number of people asking for this. So I've had multiple folks comment on this army that they would like to see it broken down and talked about, and some stuff that I think about it, obviously, like I usually do. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into it. This is a big army. There's 20 profiles at the last I counted, if I remember correctly. There's a lot of named heroes. There's a lot of smaller heroes. There's a lot of troop options to choose from. And there's a lot of different ways to build this army and to run it. There's even a legendary legion for it now. And there's just all kinds of things that you can do in Moria. So because of the fact that it is such a big army, this will definitely be at least a 2, if not a 3-part review. And it's most likely going to be 3. Maybe even 4. I don't know. I'm just sitting down now. It'll all depend on how much I have to talk about. So we're already a minute in. Look at this. And all I'm doing is just talking about the army in general. So let's go ahead and dive on into this. And it starts with, and let's be honest, I wouldn't say it starts and ends with, but it definitely starts with the big guy himself, the Balrog. So the Balrog is a hero of legend. He is a spirit. So that is interesting because I know there's some spells out there that target spirits. So don't sleep on that if you use spellcaster armies. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but I know there's some that target spirits out there. I think Banish is one of them. And I think, if I'm remembering right, that deals a wound to a spirit model. So usually when you think of that, you're thinking of the ring wraiths and getting banished because they only have 1 wound. So not such a big deal for the Balrog, and very, very unlikely for it to happen to him because of his stat line, which we'll get to in a minute. But like I said, he is a spirit, he's a monster, infantry, and he's a hero of legend, and he is pointy. He is definitely one where you see him taken, and then there's a lot of goblin chaff around him to help get your numbers, and a lot of the models just are there to help support the Balrog, which is, of course, no surprise. He's definitely a hard hitter, too, because jumping into his profile, he is 6-inch movement, so kind of slow, but he is infantry, slow in comparison. Yeah, he does have that huge base that he's on, so it's not like he's really moving all that quote-unquote slow. He's fight 10, so there is no need to worry about you having to strike with him. Everybody's going to be trying to either strike up to match you or pray that you don't roll a 6. He is strength 9, defense 9, 4 attacks, 10 wounds, and courage 7. He has no might, 10 will, and no fate. So that's where I was talking about with the spells. You're not going to really likely get a spell against him to be successful with his 10 will. And he also has the resistance to magic special rules. So you got that going for him. He also has Fearless, Ancient Evil, and Terror. So he's going to make it hard for you to charge against him, with Terror and Ancient Evil being a -1 modifier to your courage at an 18-inch range. So it's the better one, not the harbinger evil that wraiths usually have, and other evil models that have the -1 modifier. And then he doesn't care if you cause terror because he's just coming at you with his Fearless. And then he's got a huge stat line, like I said, with strength 9 and defense 9. No fate is kind of painful, but with defense 9, most things are going to be wounding you on a minimum of 6s. With a lot of things being 6s by 5, 6s by 4s. Even strength 2 bows are wounding you on 6s by 6s. So very, very unlikely. So let's see. So strength 2 bows, 6s by 6s, which means strength 3 models are 6s by 5s, which makes strength 4, 6s by 4s. And that's where it ends. So strength 5 would be finally just wounding you on straight 6s. And let's be honest, there's not a lot of strength 5 models out there. Alright, so looking at the rest of his profile, I kind of skipped over War Gear, so we'll keep going with Special Rules, and then we can come back to the War Gear to talk about that. So we already covered Ancient Evil, Fearless, Resistant Magic, and Terror. So moving on to his next one, he has Goblin Mastery, and that is friendly Moria Goblins within 12 inches of the Balrog automatically pass Courage tests, which is really good because he's basically giving a Fearless bubble to Goblins, and Goblins being only Courage 2 are going to have issues against other terror armies or other models that cause terror. So having that in your army is very similar to like the bonus that Dane does for Warriors of Iron Hills Warriors, and other models do as well. So that is a pretty big special rule that he has. The next one is Flame of Udun, and that is the Balrog is never considered to be unarmed, and any model that suffers a wound from the Balrog strikes, even if it is subsequently saved by fate and not slain, must roll a d6. On a 6, the model suffers the Set Ablaze special rule. Additionally, the Balrog is immune to any fire-based attacks or special rules, such as Dragon's Breathe Fire, or Set Ablaze special rule. So that means I would assume that he's also immune to, well, maybe not, because the magic isn't really an attack or a special rule. It's kind of its own separate thing. So maybe you could do a fireball with Saruman. That's the Saruman and Kardush, but I'm not sure. I'd probably actually have to check that under the erratas. But for the minimum, you're not having to be worried about the Balrog, the creature of shadow, being set ablaze or breathe fired on by a dragon. And I think Smaug can do breathe fire as well. So that's pretty good, because being set ablaze, I believe, is you suffer like a strength 6 hit or something like that every turn until you literally go prone to put your fire out. The whole stop, drop, and roll thing. So that's pretty powerful. That really hurts when you're a hero. Yeah, it's a very small chance of 16%, but when you escape a wound with a fate point, then it's like, okay, well, now I have 16% chance of taking additional hits on top of that, which, you can fate out of wounds from being set ablaze, but that still really hurts. But definitely very good against something that has multi-wounds. So let's see, he's got 4 attacks, so your odds of wounding are pretty darn high with strength 9, but let's just say you're going up against like a Moomok that has 10 wounds or so, like he does, multiple, do a couple wounds there and then potentially being set ablaze. Yeah, that's dangerous. Or let's see, 3 wounds we could call a troll, or even a half troll that has multiple wounds. Any models out there that have multi wounds that could potentially survive an attack, as unlikely as it is at strength 9. But then have to be worried about being set ablaze. So that's where you can almost save yourself potentially a turn of having to attack something with the Balrog, is getting him set ablaze. So small chance of being set ablaze at only 16%, since you have to roll a 6, but it's still a threat. So nothing to laugh at all there. And then the other thing that we shouldn't skip over is the fact that he is never considered unarmed. He does have 2 weapons. So it is potentially possible for them to be shattered by, a shatter shaman, a Gundabad shaman, which is in his own army. But it's possible for it to happen where he could be unarmed. So he doesn't have to worry about that. I guess he would just beat on you with his his sweeping fiery arm of death. So his last special rule is the Demon of the Ancient World, and that is the Balrog may call a heroic combat each turn without the need to expend a point of might. Additionally, special rules and strikes that would slay the Balrog instantly, such as Drain Soul or a Morgul Blade, will only inflict half of the Balrog's starting wounds rather than all of them. So that's a pretty good combo there as well. So you get the ability to have a free heroic combat, which was the weakness of the Balrog under the old edition, before the new one came out in 2018. So you didn't really see the Balrog. As much as he's a butt-kicking monster, you can just go stick a single 5-point Goblin or an 8-point Warrior Ministeriet in front of him and force him to charge, because he's got that big base to maneuver. He has to maneuver around. So force him to charge due to control zones, and you could literally just feed him a model a turn. If you could get your opponent to maneuver him into a position where it's hard to get out of a corner or something. So him being able to now, like, okay, you're going to position that guy in front of me? Cool. I'm just going to charge you, and then I can rend you, and then I can do a heroic combat off of that, and then go get your line, and then I can go ahead and hurl you if I want to, and just all kinds of crazy stuff like that. So, very, very, very good special rule that he has. And then now he cannot be killed by insta-kill things. It does do half wounds, so, that would suck. No fate points. So your leader, which is, if you're playing a Balrog army, he's going to be your leader since he's a hero legend. He's the only hero legend in Moria. But it's not like he's going to be insta-killed, which is a good thing to not have happen to your leader. And I think we can all agree on that. All right, so moving on. He has 2 pieces of war gear, and that is the giant flaming sword and a fiery lash. And the fiery lash is a throwing weapon with a range of 8 inches and a strength of 7. Additionally, a model that is hit by this weapon and not slain is dragged directly towards and into base contact with the Balrog, even over intervening models or terrain. If the model cannot be placed where it should be placed, instead place it in base contact with the Balrog as close as possible to the position it should have been in. If for whatever reason the model cannot be placed anywhere in base contact, then it is not moved at all. So that's actually a really important rule. Not so much the whole, the lash is great. So with a 6-inch movement and an 8-inch range, you're basically got a 14-inch threat with just the fiery lash of the Balrog. Because if you strike and hit, and he's a 3-up hit value. So if you move and shoot, quote unquote, you got a 50% chance of hitting something, because you can move full with throwing weapons and still throw it. The downside is obviously that moving. Well, there's no really downside. Moving and throwing there's no downside. Sorry, I don't know why I started with that. But anyway, what was I saying? So yeah, you've got a pretty big threat range there at 14 inches. You've got a lost my train of thought. Sorry. You don't really have to worry about anything. It's your opponent has to worry about it. Sorry. I just played against Moria yesterday in my live stream. So I'm sitting here thinking about what I was doing against Moria to try and prevent me from getting whipped in. But yes, this is a good tool. So while the Balrog cannot, move limited movement at 6 inches, that 8-inch range makes it a huge threat to your opponent. So it makes your opponent have to really consider how he's moving and where he's moving his models to. So this is a tactic that you see a lot of people do is they'll go ahead and do that fiery whip, pulling a model. Maybe your opponent's trying to stay away from the Balrog. They're trying to skirt it. Well, they somehow accidentally forget to move a guy, or they keep a guy in that 14-inch range, Pull that one model in, and then free heroic combat off of it, kill it, and now you've moved yourself 6 inches closer. So next turn, if you get the priority and your opponent doesn't do a heroic movement, well, now you're another 6 inches closer. You could be right there on top of your opponent. And then at that point, there's literally, unless they're cav models, there's no way for them to get outside a 14-inch range. And even then, it can be really hard for cav models unless they do some sort of march or something. So you have to, you don't have to. You can use the fiery lash to your advantage very well when it comes to getting after your opponent, even with the quote-unquote limited mobility. So something that I definitely want to talk about here, and this is something that I've seen a number of players play wrong, and I've had to correct them, and they kind of get a little, I wouldn't say snotty, but they kind of get peeved about being corrected. But it is part of the Balrog, and it does say specifically that if you don't wound, it pulls into base contact in the shortest possible position. So that doesn't mean if you have a Balrog and the model is, we're just going to use, looking down from above, the model is to the right of the Balrog, you whip it, and then you pull it around and place the model on the left side of the Balrog. The only way that would be possible is if there's absolutely no place around the entirety of the Balrog in order to put it on the left side. And that is very unlikely to happen because of the fact that he's got a 60-inch base. So I've seen players take him, whip the guy that's on the right, put him on the left, and then hurl him to the left because the enemy's fight line or whatever is on the left, and they're trying to knock him down and screw him up. It's like, no, you can't do that. It specifically says right here, shortest distance. And that applies to another model that we're going to talk about. I don't know if we'll talk about it today because we're already at 14 minutes and we talked about one model, and that's the Watcher in the Water. So sorry for those who have done this and I've called you out on it. Not sorry at the same time because that's just the rule. Very good rule though, as I was saying from the get-go, is you can pull a guy in and then go ahead and trounce him, and you can hurl him. Pull a guy in, hurl him down the fight line, you barge off of him, rend off of him, whatever. Heroic combat off of him is basically the big thing you see that's being done, so you can go and put the Balrog in your opponent's face a lot quicker. All right, so that is the Balrog. That's basically anything and everything that could do with it. So let's go on. We're going to talk about a couple more models because I don't want to get this video too long. Plus, editing it is a pain in the ass because I have to find a lot of photos. And this is like 16 minutes on one model, basically. So we have Durbûrz, the Goblin King of Moria. He is a hero of valor, Goblin Moria infantry hero keywords. He is fight 4, strength 4, defense 6, 2 attack, 2 wounds, courage 4, 3 might, 2 will, 2 fate. He possesses heavy armor and a sword. He has heroic resolve, heroic strike, and heroic defense. He has cave dweller, and then he has iron fist for his other special rule, and that is his stand fast is a 12-inch range. So Durbûrz, if you're running Goblin spam, Durbûrz is going to end up being your leader because of the fact that he's a hero of valor. Pretty sure he's the only model who's a hero of valor. Okay, there's one other. I'm doing a quick look through. There's one other hero that's a hero of valor as well. So you've got 2 heroes of valor, and we'll get to the other one later. But if you're going to play Goblin spam, so that means no Balrog, Durbûrz is going to be your leader. So having that 2 fate is also good. Defense 6, he's a little squishy, but you're not going to have to worry about strength 2, strength 3 bow fire. So just be careful with him. He's not really going to go take on a big hero with that. With the heroic strike, you're really looking at him taking on fight 5, fight 4 enemy elites. So I mean, there's been a resurgence of fight 3 army spam armies. So he'd be really good against a fight 3 army, which he did against me yesterday when I did my live stream because I was playing Minas Tirith. But normally you're just sending him against, maybe cavalry models because he can fight them attack for attack if they charge in. And I'm talking troop cavalry, not infantry, obviously, because cavalry's not infantry. But I'm talking like troop cavalry. I'm not talking about mounted heroes. So he's a good choice though. Having heroic resolve is cool because that can give him the ability to make. If I remember it correctly, that's the one that gives everybody resistance to magic. So something that is kind of weak for goblins is that they are, with the exception of a few cases, very susceptible to magical powers. So having that is good. And then they are a low courage army too. So that's Durbûrz. Moving on, we have Groblog, Goblin Moria infantry hero, hero fortitude, fight 3. So here goes where it kind of starts hurting for your heroes. Fight 3, strength 4, defense 6, 2 attack, 2 wound, courage 3, 3 might, 1 will, 1 fate. And so you can see that's where this is one of those minor heroes for Moria, and he has 1 will. He has armor, sword, and the mithril crown. So the mithril crown is at the start of each fight phase before heroic actions are declared. Roll a d6 on a 4+ all friendly Moria goblin models within 3 inches of Groblog. Gain +1 to the fight value until the end of the turn. So this is actually pretty cool. You can combo this with heroes because it's Moria goblin. It's not what do you call it? What's the keyword for infantry? Warrior. It's not warrior. It's hero. It's not warrior Moria Goblin. It's just Moria Goblin. So you can get your heroes involved as well, which is really, really good. So that gives Durbûrz right there the ability to go up to fight 5 if he's within 3 inches of Groblog. Which, if you're going to go spam-wise, I highly recommend keeping the heroes together because they kind of play off of each other. Now, it is risky because it is a 50-50, but you don't have to pay any will points. There's no might points. It's really just a 50-50 roll every turn for the ability to get +1 fight value to all Moria goblins within 3 inches of Groblog. So moving on, his other statistics are he has heroic strike and heroic defense for his actions, and then he has cave dweller for his special rule. So that's Groblog. I definitely think you take Groblog. Even if you're going to take the Balrog, I think trying to squeeze in Durbûrz and Groblog is really smart because they give you 5 points of might combined, plus some pretty cool special abilities, a higher defense statistic at 6 for each of them, and some better fight value than just trying to take a captain. So the last one we're going to go ahead and cover for the day is Drûzog the Beastcaller. He's a Goblin Moria infantry hero. He's a hero of Fortitude, Fight 3, Strength 3, Defense 4, 1 attack, 2 wounds, Courage 4, so he's come back up. That's cool. 2 Might, 5 Will, 2 Fate. He has Armor, Dagger, and a Staff. His actions are Heroic Channeling, and he has Cave Dweller for a special rule. So he has Enraged Beast and Fury, but his Fury is an asterisk, and that will go to his under his special rules, Master of the Dark Wild. Drûzog may include wild wargs, fell wargs, giant bats, and bat swarms in his warbands as if they were part of the same army list. This does not count as allying. Additionally, all friendly bat, warg, and spider models within 12 inches of Drûzog may use his courage value instead of their own. Drûzog's Fury magical power will affect himself and any model that is either a bat, spider, or warg. So pretty cool way to be able to get some additional models into the list that aren't normally there. That being, fell wargs and wild wargs, because fell wargs have fell sight, so that gives you an ability to charge around terrain pieces without seeing somebody. So that's nice to have. Giant spiders are great to have because that's something that gives you a little bit of a glass cannon hitting power, increases your hitting power at a little bit of a cheaper points value than, let's say, the Cave Troll or Dweller in the Dark, which are also in this list. Can give you some strength 5 with 2 attacks. And then bat swarms are great because of the fact that they do the whole half fight value rounding down. I do believe that bat swarms are in. Yeah, bat swarms are in. What do you call it? Are in Moria. So I'm a little curious as to why it specifically states bat swarms in that, because they are part of the Moria list. Whatever. I guess it's probably because of the fact that they needed to mention that to go with his Fury, which only affects bat, spider, and warp models. So he is unfortunately not so much seen anymore. He used to be a pretty well seen model when the Spider Queen was part of Moria, because he would enrage Beast on the Spider Queen, and that just turned the Spider Queen into a unstoppable rolling demolition model. I don't really know how to describe it. I went against it in a game at Nova a few years ago, and it completely rolled over me. Now, to be fair, it was under the old rules where anybody could call heroic strikes, and it came down to a 50-50 roll-off on the first turn when my opponent called it, and if I had won the roll-off for what heroic actions were to have gone first, I would have been able to surround the Spider Queen and probably kill her pretty well, even with the Enraged Beast special rule on her. But yeah, so that's the first 4 models. And like I said, there's 20. So there you go. We're 23 minutes in, and I've only covered 4 models. Not a big deal. There's a lot to talk about for one model, and I feel like a lot of these other ones will be able to be covered a lot faster. This is a good stopping point, too, because the next model coming up has a lot of special rules and stuff that go with him. So for those who have been looking forward to the Moria list, I hope you continue to like, share, and subscribe so you can see more of what I have to say about Moria and thoughts and processes on how to play the army. But until next time, thank you guys, and please do, as I said, and like, share, and subscribe.